Hi, welcome to the PEPP Story live show. And tonight I'm going to be following on from last night. We're looking at stories tonight. I'm going to talk about some particular stories and some of the stories that I use just to see what sort of things you're looking for to try and find good stories to put into your speech. So there we go. Tonight it's about exploring stories. So tonight I'm going to look at some stories, and what's prompted this tonight was every Friday I go on a Zoom session with a number of other professional speakers. It's a coffee and conversation morning that we have, and we've been doing this since the middle of the year, since lockdown started, and it's kept on going, and we're finding it quite good because it's a way to share ideas and meet people. None of us are getting out now. We're not getting into audiences and meeting our friends. So everything's being online, and it's a chance just to sort of catch up with people and get some new ideas. And today our session was really about sharing some stories. And it was really quite inspiring. By the end of the meeting, I felt that I'd got to know everybody just that much better, with little stories of things that had happened in their lives. And they weren't yet earth-shattering stories. Some of them were quite momentous. For everybody, there were important stories. They were stories about successes, things of achievements in life. And I think, very often when I'm running workshops, I ask people to talk about their successes. One of the exercises that I run on a workshop is a moment of triumph exercise. Try to remember a moment of triumph. Try to get into that moment. Try to re-experience it as if it was already happening. Get yourself back into what actually happened. What was the build up to it? How did that actually happen? And it's particularly about exploring a moment when you felt absolutely on top of the world and trying to anchor the feelings that go with that, because it's a very good anchor to help you overcome nervousness and fear. So that's, and we'll look a little bit at that at another night, just the whole idea of anchoring success. But this is really about going back into the whole area, finding your stories, and experiencing and exploring your stories. So that's really what we're going to be trying to look at tonight, and expanding our whole sense of being storytellers. And I think it's always a good idea to just practice storytelling all the time. Remember those stories. When you're having conversations, you can bring up anecdotes. It happens all the time, doesn't it? Trouble is, we're not mixing with people now, so we're not down the pub telling stories and sharing yarns. We're not out with our friends and sharing stories about things that we've done in the past. Now, the focus about the ones that I'm talking about are what I call extraordinary moments, and they're not the big triumphs. When I look at extraordinary moments that have happened in my life, for example, the first time I stood on a stage and delivered a speech to 1,500 people was an extraordinary moment. Absolute, I can't, it was beyond words to describe how I felt. But the extraordinary moment wasn't that. That was the climax. The extraordinary moment I'm going to talk about now, because it was, where did it all start? What happened to take me on that track? Now, that particular event, the big trigger for being a professional speaker came from attending a conference and seeing professional speakers. But by the time I'd attended that, I already had the bug for being a speaker. I had the bug for performance, and that happened way, way earlier. And I had no real sense of what had actually happened, what had caused it. I've got to go back to 1968. 1968, I'd done my A-levels. I'd been on a college course for 2 years, and I'd completed my A-levels. Now, my dad was an engineer, so I had been encouraged towards becoming an engineer. So I took maths, I took applied maths, I took physics, I'd done a chemistry O-level and various other things. And I was centered down the route of getting myself at applied, and got a place at Queen Mary College in London, subject to just 3 Cs. Didn't need even serious A-levels. I was going to become a nuclear engineer. That was the goal. That was the mission. Everything was about the nuclear age, the atomic age back then. It was I wasn't really into the ban the bomb stuff. It was beginning to build up, but I thought actually nuclear engineering was a good thing, and my dad thought that was a place where everything was going to be going. So I headed off to do it. Well, it was a disaster. I'd been to Butlins to work in the bars. I'd lived all my life in a pub, so it made a good place to go for. I was just 18, so I could go work in the bars, and I had a good year enjoying myself, a good summer enjoying myself. But the letter came through, and I had failed I got maths. Applied maths had failed, physics I'd failed, chemistry, everything else had failed. So there was no way that I was going to university on one grade E. So I came back and I just didn't know what to do. Frankly, I had absolutely no idea where I wanted to go. I was missionless. And I really knew I needed something. I needed to get some qualifications, and I had nothing at all. So I'd got a bit of a buzz about wanting to go back to Butlins to be a redcoat, but that was going to be for the summer. So I persuaded my dad that I should go to college. I'd actually earned quite a lot of money working at Butlins. In those days it was quite a lot of money, and it was enough to support me through some of the things, enough to give me some of the extra financial help I needed. So my dad said, "Yeah, okay, you can go back to college." And I decided, I'd spoken to a few people, and I said, what were the right topics? And they said, "Oh, don't do sciences, do economics and sociology." And so these were all brand new topics. So I got to the college, and that was what I decided I was going to do: economics, sociology, retake my maths, take a few other O levels. But every Wednesday afternoon, we had a free period when we could do whatever we wanted. And I was sitting talking to a friend of mine, and we had actually been talking about something. We thought, the college, I'd been there for 2 years. They'd never had a rag week, and all sorts of colleges had rag weeks. We thought, why is this college not got a rag week? So we decided there and then that we would put together a rag week and get something happening in the new year. We'd have a tug of war across the River Avon, or we'd have a big gig. We wanted a big concert with a really well-known pop band there, and we negotiated with the college for that. And while we're sitting here talking about it, he said, "Well, what are you going to do for your option this year?" I said, "Oh, I don't really know." He said, "Why don't you come and join us in the drama class?" And I thought, I'm not really good at drama. And just at that moment, somebody walked past. It was one of the girls from the college that I quite fancied. And this is me as then it's still a hot-blooded young 18-year-old boy. And he made a comment about it, and I said, "Well, you should see her in a brown knickers." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, there's only one changing room." I thought, "Oh, this sounds fun." So I joined the drama group. I very soon met her boyfriend and decided that was a no-go area. But they were auditioning for parts for Mark Antony in the play of Julius Caesar. My friend already got the big part of Cassius, another that had got Brutus. So the only part left was Mark Antony. So I went home and I got the play, and I really worked hard to memorize as much as I could of the big friends, Romans, countrymen speech. And I came to the audition and I powered it out. And the director made me go right the way through it. And I sort of struggled my way through most of it. Anyway, at the end of it, he said, "Right, who else would like to audition?" And everybody else said, "Oh, no more." Everybody gave up. I'd done such a good performance, so I got the part. But the director came up to me afterwards and he said, "Okay, you've got the part, but I need you to be better than that." I think he actually said, "You're not really good enough yet." But anyway, he said, "I would like you to take some of the drama classes because you'll need it. It's a big part, and I want you to do well." So I thought, okay. And I checked and I found out that pretty much all of the drama course fitted in with my free periods. There was only one class that clashed. I thought, right, I'll do it. So I set to and did the drama class. And I really, really enjoyed it. Got heavily into the theatre. And come the following year, we were then scheduled up to be going to do a 6 nights. So in the meantime, we now decided we're going to get this whole rag week together. And the college pulled us in and said, "Well, you can't we booked a hall, we booked this. They said, what do you mean you haven't got permission to do that? So we had this big negotiation going on, and we said, look, we want to do this. We want to get something done. So one of the lecturers decided he was going to back us, and we got it. And we had an option to go and hire a couple of different pop bands at the time. But one band that had been really out of the running, nobody's heard much about them for a while. They'd been very popular and they'd sort of died away. They just released a record. At the end of the year, they released a new record called Blackberry Way. It's a band called The Move. And everybody said, well, yeah, these are the days when it used to take a long time for a record to get up in the charts. Well, we booked The Move. And Blackberry started to climb over Christmas through the charts. Come to January, we booked for the 14th of February, 1969. This was going to be the start of the year. 14th of February was our big event. We had to have a dance with all the old people and the principal could go to as well. But this was the big one. Now, as it happened, with all the thing going on with the college deciding that they wanted to have this dance with the Eric Winston band, I think it was, so that the principal could invite the mayor and they could all do some ballroom dancing, I decided I'd take up ballroom dancing. So I started taking ballroom dancing classes, and things were really beginning to move. Anyway, then we had all sorts of problems picking up. We started to hear that The Move were going to America, and they were going to be going to America at the end of January. We thought, no, we've got them booked for February. Don't say it was all going to be cancelled. Well, at the last minute, we found out we'd got the contract. They were coming to see us. And then on the 14th of February, 1969, Blackberry Way went to #1 on every hit parade. The New Musical Express Melody Maker had Blackberry Way at #1, and we had them there in our town. There was queues all around the town to get in. This was the biggest gig that happened in the town for years. So I nearly became an event promoter on the back of that. Thought this was going to be good. So we had this fabulously successful gig, and 1969 just got better and better. The play, when we did Julius Caesar, went absolutely brilliantly. I think it was only one night I messed my lines up. I got a bronze medal in ballroom dancing and was carrying on to do a silver. Applied to become a redcoat at Butlins, and on the back of my now acting experience and on the having also done the ballroom dancing, I got myself a place there. Went to Butlins and had a fabulous summer. I didn't get the A-levels to get into university, but by the time I came back, I was ready to go. I went off to London, and my whole life started. And when I look back, I realized it was that period, doing the play, organizing the drag week, getting into the drag week, getting into performance, getting to Butlins and having the whole year, being a sort of general entertainer at Butlins, that set me onto a new track, a new trajectory that led to me becoming a professional speaker. So I know that's quite I've probably could have structured that better, and I've used little bits of it in different places. But you see, that's a story about passion. I found my passion in acting. I found my passion in performance, and I hadn't had that previously. And sometimes it takes us quite a time to find our passions. And that led me down a track, which meant I was forever now looking for things. I got into a job later, which was quite boring, but very soon found myself into a new job and took me into training and into speaking. And it's driven me all the way through. And even now, I've been doing some book narration over the last year. And it was really me reconnecting back with that passion I had for acting and for performance. And all the way as I look through my life, it's driven me. And I didn't go looking for it. It's as if somehow your passions, you don't have to look for your passions find you. Your mission in life, your purpose in life, you don't have to look for your purpose in life. It will find you. You have only to recognize it and understand it. And sometimes we squash it, we push it down, but it's always there. Now, I've looked purpose, experience, and passion. The three of the key elements to creating a great speech, performance and story, were already there. Purpose. Okay, so my story is about me finding my purpose. It took me a while to realize that I'd found it, but it was there and it started to build. Things were happening which were pulling together to take me down the track of being a performer, of being a speaker. And I was building the skills that I would need later on without any realization that those skills I was building were all going to come together. They seemed all disparate, but eventually they all connected. Those experiences created stories which were part of helping me to be a speaker. There were there's lots more. We all have so many stories. And I realized today, as this conversation was going on with these other speakers, I just told, pretty much what I've just told you. And I suddenly realized that was just 1 year. And that wasn't even all the stories of that year. There were other stories that I've used from that one, 1969. But by 1970, there were more stories. Everywhere I look, there are stories, anecdotes, little snippets of my life, things that I can use to actually drop in. And everywhere you go, you're looking for stories, looking for ways to illustrate your talk, to illustrate your points, to make your point more memorable. So that's what we're really looking for. Look at your purpose, your mission, your sense of where you're going in life. If you've already got that good sense, fine. If not, look back. Do that timeline of your experiences. Look for those transitions in your life. Look for things that have taken you in different directions. What's knocked you completely off in another direction? Because even if it's something quite negative, I've told you the story of W. Mitchell, who was almost burned to death and then broke his back. And had neither of those things happened, he would probably not have become the successful speaker that he is today. Now, I'm not saying that he wanted those to happen, but that's what happened. That's the way things went for him. And those experiences, bad though they were, actually gave the foundation for creating an enormously powerful speech. So look at those, look at your passions, look at your mission, look at your life experiences, write the timeline, and start creating that library of stories which will constantly start feeding in to your speeches. Every time you write a speech, look at it and say, right, what stories have I got in my life that I can use to illustrate this point? What have I done that helps? Because people want to hear how you've done. If you want to give advice, show how you learned that advice. If there's a lesson in life, show why you learned that lesson. Don't use somebody else's lesson, use it for you. Because until you've learnt it the hard way, often you don't really understand it, you can't really impart it. So there we go, just some thoughts about speaking, just some thoughts about telling stories. I hope you found that useful. I'm going to be carry on talking about stories tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you then. Day 16 of my 31-day challenge. We're now into the second half. And don't forget, if you need a little bit of speaking coaching, you need some help putting a speech together, ricky@rickyarundel.com, call me there, and let's arrange a 30-minute session where you can see how I might be able to help you put some life into it and make a really exciting speech. So join me tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you then. For now, I wish you good night and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.